Good morning, everybody. Mark Finan here in the home weather office on this Thursday morning. It is now the 28th day of August, 2025, and this is the morning briefing. As I look out the window from the home weather office, blue sky, light breezes, and it's almost a cool morning. It is going to be another warm day. We'll see temperatures get well into the 90s. But this morning, nice and cool and comfortable. And now that we're getting into late August, we're going to see more of this. Even though we can see daytime highs that are in the upper 90s, we may even see more 100s before the season is done. Quite often, the overnight lows get very, very comfortable. So unlike those summer hot days where you can be 100 degrees at noontime, instead at this time of year, it takes a lot longer to heat up. So for those of you that want the cooler weather, time to exercise and that sort of thing, the morning hours continue to be very, very comfortable. And obviously, as we get toward fall, we'll see more of that. A lot going on this morning. Let's show you the satellite because, yes, a few things to point out. First, down south, we have this tropical moisture, part of what used to be Tropical Storm Juliet, falling apart. Otherwise, we have clear skies in much of California. We have some marine layer here. And we also have a fair amount of smoke. Let's zoom in on this a little bit. It may take a second to load up. But yeah, a lot of smoke. This is from the Garnet Fire. And you can see all of this is smoke. So you can see the cloud cover here, and you notice this area here, it's not moving as quickly. It's kind of slowly spreading up to the north. Yeah, that is smoke. And you can see the smoke laying down in some of the valleys. Mono Lake is right in here, so this is getting into Yosemite. This is streaming up north, getting into Amador and Calaveras counties, and Tuolumne County certainly, and also spreading down in the valley. The fire is pretty big. Let's take a look at. Let's see. Let's go to Watch Duty and see what Watch Duty has to say about this. So it's now almost 14,000 acres. 13.9 is what it says right here. So let's round that to 14,000 acres. And let's zoom in on this a little bit. As you're looking at this area of red, I know it can be kind of confusing. These are evacuation orders. The areas highlighted in yellow are evacuation warnings. And it's this other shade of red with the irregular outline. That's actually the perimeter of the fire. And what fire operations say is that yesterday this area spread quite quickly. And as a matter of fact, yesterday on here, and again, Watch Duty is a great source. Let's scroll down. This is the way it looked yesterday afternoon. And we did see a pretty big pyrocumulus cloud develop here. Now, it's interesting the way these pyroQ develop, because these actually have to do with our overall environment. In other words, over the last few afternoons, we've been seeing thunderstorms in the Sierra. Well, that means that you have the right environment for convective development. So you have the right amount of lift going on, and when you factor in something that is really hot, like the fire, you can really get these pyrocumulus going. And sometimes it can lead to extreme fire behavior. Years and years ago, the King Fire that developed outside of Pollock Pines, that really blew up in a day where we had really good convective activity and as well as perfect terrain alignment. But that's something that, so this goes hand in hand with the overall weather. You think about, fire weather being hot and dry and windy. Well, also sometimes you have to look at the convective parameters, because if you just looked at this and say, oh, that's a thunderstorm, but down here there's a fire burning that's helping to fuel that. So not only the heat down here, but the atmosphere that's above that. So during the day today, we will continue to see a favorable environment for this, and we're going to continue to see all of that smoke. And let me show you one of the alert cameras. This is the way it looks over at June, around the June Lakes area. And so over toward Mammoth, we have a lot of smoke, and it's just kind of murky. So all the areas, as I mentioned, around Mono Lake, let me move this up a little bit. Getting down toward Death Valley, spreading up to the north. So there's going to be a lot of smoke here along 395. If you head on 395 and you go toward, let's say, Walker, everything's going to be just fine. But then as farther south you go past Bridgeport, then you start getting into all that smoke. Also, interesting little feature here that I just noticed. So here's Lake Tahoe, and this is some morning fog. Keep in mind, these areas have seen a lot of rain the last couple of days, some beneficial rain, which means you have the low-level moisture, and so you have these cool valleys that are in areas from Truckee just to the north, and so you get a little bit of fog there. Really interesting. Out here we have a nice little low spinning around, and then we also have some marine layer, although the marine layer isn't quite as great. We do have some marine layer, and that is going to help to keep coastal areas cooler. And then we have this going on. I talked about this. This is what's now known as post-tropical cyclone. What do they call it? Post-tropical cyclone Juliet. It's a tropical depression, if you will. So it doesn't really have tropical characteristics anymore, but it certainly has all that moisture. And with that, let's go to the HRRR. Look at that. Some rain into Southern California today in San Diego County, spreading into some of these inland deserts. This is the reflectivity, so I'll show you the rain totals here in just a second. This is up through the early afternoon. And as we go through the afternoon, you'll notice that here in the Sierra, much less activity than the last couple of days. You go east into Nevada, you'll find showers, thunderstorms all the way into Utah, and this area of rain spreading up toward the Grand Canyon. It'll be very, very light rain. And then into the day tomorrow, on Friday, looks like showers and thunderstorms just on the east side of the Sierra. So once again, avoiding areas like Lake Tahoe. I'll tell you, yesterday I was in Tahoe, and man, it got loud for a little while. Pretty changeable. So even though this model is showing all the activity on Friday on the east side, just be ready for very changeable conditions in the Sierra. And that also reminds me, because one other thing that's going on in the eastern Sierra, if you will, on the east side of the Sierra this week, is Burning Man. And they had a dust storm the other day. There's some video online. And remember back in 2003, they had all the rain, and it caused all the mud and mayhem then. And I remember, when I was still in the newsroom back then, and we were all talking about it, and people were saying, oh, this is so unusual, it's a desert, it's raining, and so I just pointed out, I said, okay, this is the Black Rock Desert is, it's an old dry lake bed. So I posed the question, what was that lake bed before it was a dry lake bed? And I just let that sit for a while. So if there's rain, where is it going to drain? Into where the lake used to be. Anyway, let's go back to, so if you're going to be in the Sierra this weekend, especially the east side of the Sierra, expect changeable conditions. And anytime you have some of these thunderstorms develop, you can have the winds change direction and they can get very strong, whether it's an outflow or an inflow, especially the outflows can get very strong. Yeah, so like I said, I was up there yesterday and saw about 3 different wind directions in 4 hours. All right, so let's take a look at the big picture. Now this is interesting for next week. I'm going to show you the 6Z runs. That's the most recent run available as I'm recording this, just before 8:30 in the morning. And we have this little low out here. I showed you that on the satellite. This will keep temperatures in a moderate range, mid, maybe upper 90s. Now we're getting into the weekend, and we've been looking at this feature here to boost us into the upper 90s over the weekend. Big ridge here, but maybe enough troughiness to keep us in the upper 90s as opposed to 100 degrees. And that also helps to keep most of the monsoon moisture away. Now, as we get into next week, this is a feature that the models have been going back and forth on. So now we're up to next Tuesday. We have a low up here, we have a low out here, and while there's a little wave right here, generally what we have is a big ridge. And that would mean the potential for some hot weather next week. I mean, look at this. That is the end of next week. Is this Friday, Saturday? This is next Friday, so a week from tomorrow. Big high out in here. And that would be some hot weather. Okay? So that is the most recent run. let me go back to this. Let me go back to the 0Z run. So let's see what this model said just 6 hours before. And let me go up here. All right, let's fast forward into, this all looks similar to what the 6Z run showed. But yet, instead, this model, what day are we up to now? This is next Friday. This 0Z run last night for next Friday had a big trough coming in as opposed to the big ridge. So this would be 92. The 6Z run would be 102. So for next week, you know, I know it's Thursday. We should have a better idea about next week. But boy, the models are all over the place. And by the way, there's another decaying tropical system that could bring more rain to Southern California. But that's out into fantasy land. So, yeah. So whenever I'm doing forecasting, and I always used to break it down, and still do, into what do we know? What do we not know? So what do we know? We know today's going to be a nice day. Temperatures will be warm, probably a little bit warmer than yesterday, but nothing too extreme, mid-90s. And the weekend will likely be in the range of mid to upper 90s, cooler on the coast. And also we'll likely see less Sierra activity in the next couple of days, but still on the east side of the Sierra, you got to keep your eye out for the afternoon buildups and the winds that will go with it. Also, we're going to have to track the smoke coming off the Garnet Fire and just how far north that's going to go, but it will continue to have an impact on areas from Yosemite to the east toward Mono Lake and down toward Mammoth and probably all the way toward Bishop as well. So those are things we know. What do we not know? Well, exactly how that ridge is going to be for the middle and end of next week, meaning the potential for any heat. And what you don't like to see is the change in the models from one run to the next, especially just in 6 hours. So that's what we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen for the middle and end of next week. But we do know the next few days will be warm in the afternoons, but the mornings will continue to be comfortable, kind of like what we're seeing out there today. So that's everything I have for you this morning. It seemed like there was a lot going on. Make it a great day. I'll talk with you later.